Woo-hoo-hoo. The wait is finally over. We have made it. We have arrived. The Miranda brothers are back. What is going on, comic fans? Welcome to the Legion of Comics. I'm Mark, and today I'm about to be talking about and giving you my thoughts on the brand new series called Blade Forger from the Miranda Brothers. If you probably do remember, a few years ago, the Miranda Brothers got together and did their own creator-owned story called We Live. It shook the comic world. It was one of those ones that was a sleeper hit, and it just kept on going. It was a fantastic, beautiful, amazing story that left on such an emotional beat. It was just amazing. Now, one of the Miranda brothers is a longtime comic book artist, and the other one works in the music industry. So when they got together to make this project, it became something very unique in the sense that, of course, the art was done by Inaki Miranda. The story was done by the pair of them. But what Roy Miranda brought to the table was an audio addition to the book. Inside the book, we found QR codes that you could scan and listen to musical tracks while you listened that kind of elevated the reading experience. It was so unique. It was absolutely fantastic. Unfortunately, the publisher that they were working with had some issues, and that story kind of got locked up with a failing publisher. But now, years later, we have arrived at what's next. So they didn't sit there and fight a losing battle. They just kept pushing forward. They got together, they crafted a new story, a new idea, and that's where we're at today. So if you haven't, I would encourage any and everybody to go back and check out We Live from the Miranda Brothers. It's amazing. But now we're on to the new project, which I'm definitely, by the end of this, hoping you'll have the confidence to go pick it up and give it a shot. And that's none other than the brand new Blade Forger, issue number 1, out this week. And it's from Mad Cave Studios. And if you keep up with comic books, you know that Mad Cave has kind of been on fire lately. They've been doing a lot of cool stuff, a lot of new titles. Dick Tracy's over there. It's been amazing. But this is the new story from the Miranda Brothers, Blade Forger. So I will give you the synopsis of it, and then we'll kind of go from there. It's got a pretty long synopsis, and it reads as follows. The discovery of Corum, a never-before-seen energy source, led to a bloody world war for its control. After years of constant death and destruction, the lords of the land agreed to stop the fight and negotiate an agreement. The Blade Forgers Treaty was born from that meeting. This treaty established that the centralization of the Corum exploration wouldn't be done through one central government led by a neutral emperor. The emperor would have to be a Blade Forger, a mystical swordsman, and defend the title in a tournament called the Tournament of the Five Rings. Every 5 years, Blade Forgers from every corner of the empire would fight for the possibility of becoming the new emperor. Sounds pretty good. Sounds pretty democratic. And that's what the story is about. It starts out with focusing on a character called Owada who's making his way to that tournament. Now, what's so great about these Miranda Brothers stories that I'm finding out is how vast they are. So much time, effort, and energy go into crafting not just the story, but the world that it exists inside of. The characters all come with complex backstories. The world that you're living in seems almost infinite with how much you can explore with it. Just the description alone describes a crazy, large-scale backstory, and that's just like the foundation that we're going to be telling this story from, it looks like. So to get more context, let's look at what a Blade Forger is. It is, in fact, the name of the story, so might as well check that out. And a Blade Forger is a superior swordsman who reaches a supernatural power by merging with a Battle Kaiser. So you got a couple of things there. We already have the concept of supernatural being introduced. What is a Battle Kaiser? You can see from this variant cover for issue 1, Owada there with his Battle Kaiser behind him. And the Battle Kaiser is an ancient warrior that sent their elevated combat energy into the Gara Gara at the instant of their death. So now we're getting another layer here. And this is what I mean by such a complex and vast world. And what you're looking at there is a page from the preview book that was available at New York City Comic-Con this previous year. I was lucky enough to get a hold of one, read it this past week, and was blown away. It was way more than I was expecting. I was thinking like just a sword and sorcery kind of combat book, something like that, judging from the way that the cover looked and everything. But one thing that I didn't take into consideration when I looked at the covers, there's a freaking airplane on it. And that's one of the biggest selling points right out the gate for me was this world seems like it exists in no specific time and every time all at once. There's aspects of this world that are recognizable and familiar with what we might encounter in our world, but clearly it does not take place in our world at the same time. Now, the whole concept of these blade forgers, they get their powers from their actual blade itself. And that power is a source of energy that's found in what's called the Gara Gara, which is the supernatural element to this. It's like another world that exists on a mystic plane that they can tap into with those blades. And the blades just aren't any blades. They're blades that are made at a specific location called the forges. Now, these forges were built a long time ago, and they were centralized around these stones, or these, like, I think it was called like hardened ash or something, that was leftover remnants from the Great War that occurred in the Gara Gara, in this supernatural plane. So you have these different warring factions, these different houses that have these different abilities that they have that are kind of specific to their forge, and they send all their champions to this tournament. Now, in the New York Comic-Con preview, we follow Owada, get a little bit of his backstory and how he's kind of the people's champ, and that takes us into the tournament where he's going to be facing off against the emperor, who, despite the solicitation saying it's a neutral emperor, I mean, they're still going to be loved or hated based on their rule. He's very much so disliked. And Owada is kind of the people's champ when he gets there. And the preview book ends with him kind of arriving to that tournament. And that's where things got really wild, because when I picked up issue number 1, the first page that I haven't seen was a crazy splash page that kind of took the preview and flipped it on its head, which we kind of should have expected if you read We Live. You kind of, one of those stories where there's true stakes to it, where you don't know what's coming next, and you kind of get nervous to get attached to any characters because you could lose them at any moment. So I'm ridiculously excited to see where it goes from here. I'm not going to do any story spoilers beyond just kind of setting the page. All the stuff that I talked is in the preview book, and I wanted to bring some of this to the viewers' attention. If you pick up issue number 1, I did notice there's some stuff included in the New York Comic-Con preview book that's not in issue number 1. Some of that being those specific definitions that I showed you. You also get the map of the land, which I thought is really cool. That shows you how much time and attention went into planning this book. It wasn't just thrown together. You have this very specific little regions and stuff, places where the forges are, places where the tournament takes place, the tournament of the 5 rings. And then in the back of the preview book, we actually got this fun little commercial. This guy who's talking to the travelers or the visitors, the tourists, giving them a tour description of the Gara Gara and a great war that took place in the Gara Gara, which ultimately ended with the smoldering remains of the battle, create a unique ash that, as it cooled, it gave life to the forges of power. And that's where you get that context, which isn't in issue 1 proper. But in here, it also tells you that each forge unlocks a different attack and is used strategically during combat, and that the weapons of the blade forgers are called battle blades, with specially built to invoke battle kaisers and unlock mystical forces. So not only will they have like these supernatural avatars representing them in these battles, there's more to it than even that. But not just anybody can be a blade forger. It takes a precise sword strike and open an entrance to this mystical dimension. You have to kind of get on the same vibrational plane as your weapon. It's a whole thing that goes into it. So there's tons that we get to explore. There's tons that we get to look forward to. And I think it's going to rip out our heartstrings. Judging from the way that issue 1 ends, again, I'm not getting into spoilers, and based off what we've seen from what they did with We Live, these guys know how to craft a very personal story. And you can kind of see like the family inspiration that was present with We Live. I'm already seeing shades of that with this. And I'm also loving the marketing for it. It's not blown up. It's not everywhere out there. That's why I wanted to do a video on it. But with issue 1, just like We Live, we get the gatefold cover, and there's already a second print for it on the way with a different color palette on the cover. So just like We Live, I'm going to be going all in on this series. I didn't regret doing that with We Live, and I don't feel like I'm going to regret it with this at all. I'm digging it already. I can't wait to see where they take this, where it goes from here. I hope you go to your comic shop, you pick a copy up, give it a shot. It's definitely something unique. And man, this is going to be a fun ride. Let me comment. Let me know what you think. Were you a fan of We Live? Do you plan on picking this up? At this point, they're all sold out at ABX. Like they went. There's none left on the shelf at all. So going for reorders and all that good stuff. So check with your shop. Who knows how many were ordered? be sure to share the video out. Let's get some attention on this, and check out the Miranda Brothers right here on YouTube, because those audio tracks they post up on YouTube so you can get an idea of what to expect. And until next time, don't forget, links in the description. Big Time Collectibles, big shout out to them. Online retailer with some awesome exclusives. If you need anything cleaner press, JustinComicx got you covered. And last but not least, if you need to set up a pool list somewhere to get a hold of new books so you don't miss out on them, check out ABX Comics and Games, link down below as well. My local comic shop and the community's comic shop. Until next time, as always, I'm Mark, but we are Legion.